the slide. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Live Feature Rant. Today we have two awesome people from the community here. We have returning guest Dygz over here on my screen right, and of course with matching hat. And over on my screen left here is Tobes, who's joining us for the first time, which is totally awesome. Tobes is another live streamer from the Landmark community. Does a lot of stuff. In fact, why don't you tell us what you do instead of me? Uh, Go ahead.
Okay. Um, my name's Tobes. I mainly started streaming with Landmark because of the awesome Landmark community. I've also started streaming WildStar a little bit. I do work full time, so I'm not on as much as many of the streamers but I try to do as much as I can on my days off, as well as hanging out in other awesome channels such as Neuros. So I'll probably see you guys in a lot of other chats as well.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. And Diggs, just a little bit. What have you been up to recently since the last show?
I've been doing too much with WildStar and looking forward to H1Z1 than paying as much attention to Landmark as I should be. Completely forgot about the workshop. Barely even looked in there after Friday. Um, but I'm actually looking at WildStar to get some ideas about story potential for H1Z1, but we don't have enough story potential for EQ Next to occupy me at the moment. But I'll
I
be bringing
gotcha.
some ideas over to that too.
Gotcha. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, actually, I would say we are starting to get the very first glimpse at some of the story stuff from EverQuest Next, getting into not only the stuff from the lore books, but how that's actually transitioning over into the design of the architecture and really the culture of the race in general throughout the style guide development process in the workshop here. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and especially if we get more information about the Umbra. I don't know what the next storyline is supposed to be as we move away from the current one with the Fall of Bastion and all that. There's supposed to be a completely new era that they're going towards. They did more with even the Dark Elves, I guess. I wouldn't mind returning to them after their experience in the Umbra, so it kind of coordinates with what we're doing with design-wise. That would be great.
Yeah, and it'll definitely be. Someone was saying Jeff pretty much spoiled the books. Not really. I think some of that stuff will be revealed here pretty soon. But what actually goes on in there is probably going to be a lot more detailed and meaningful than the little bit that was kind of leaked there. But also, I suppose that's kind of one of the caveats of picking Dark Elves as a race, because the elf storyline is still being unfolded. We really don't know anything about dwarves other than the little bit in the Stars of Home. That was really the only feature of dwarves, and even then they kind of sucked. So getting some better representation for dwarves is definitely going to be important going forward with that. But for right now, since the guy that writes most of their lore, isn't it Robert Lassen? He's a British military intelligence officer or something. So the fact that there's some things going on, he's been kind of occupied with that. Hasn't really been able to work on our lore books. So unless they're going to find some way to resolve that moving forward here, it's probably going to be a little bit slow going with some of the stuff. It's probably going to be a lot of like what they already know plus what the players can help them learn and infuse into the races.
Well, I hope maybe they were so focused on just the one. I mean, we had just one storyline, so they could branch out to other writers. Hopefully, we wouldn't necessarily have to be tied to him if
Yeah.
we're moving on to a different story.
Well, there was one or two stories written by what was the guy's? Was it like Alexander Maxwell Drake or something? He had three names or something, didn't he?
That's right.
Um, So there are potentially other authors that have other things in the works, and that's definitely something we're hopefully going to be seeing more of. But maybe Robert Lassen is the one who's in charge of the elf stuff, so that might just be slowing down here for a moment. But it'll be nice to see when we get more of the races being represented. All right, so there's a lot to talk about. There's a whole hell of a lot of stuff that was just talked about in the past 2 hours, and hopefully we can go over it all and be informative and extremely on this subject. So, for the landmark contest winners, they finally wrapped them up. They had almost 100. They said 200 total potential winners, and I'm wondering if they limited to 97 or however many they took, because that's how many single plus group builds they had total players that won to distribute the prizes to them. No idea. They never really necessarily said up to a specific point either. So, other than maximum 200. So the fact that they only took as many as they did, and they're gonna do another round at some point, I really like that, because that means we're actually gonna be able to use the new tools, especially the new awesome smoothing tool, which we'll talk about in a moment, to be able
Textures.
to fully work that. Textures, yes, yes, metal, more metal than the 2013 Dragon's Prophet trailer.
That was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
That.
Before we move away from the contest, did Sog actually win anything? Did one of his get in? Do you know?
I didn't see that one of his got in. I saw that as soon as they finished announcing the winners, he may have popped in some other game for a moment. So I don't know. I don't know if because he definitely had some feelings about it, that the way it was being done, a day at a time. He said that it really felt to him like he was losing every single day, like every time they showed more of them and his wasn't in the mix. Did Sog win one? I didn't. I don't remember which one. Which one was he in? Metallical, if you can bring that up, that would totally be awesome. I'd really love to know which one.
Yeah, they said they were announcing some in the forums, which I hadn't even been paying attention to.
Yeah, I didn't notice those ones either until looking through it. But that there'll be plenty more opportunities at it. I can see why neither of mine got in. That's totally fine. I can see they could definitely stand to be reworked to reach the level of some of those awesome things. Of course, some of the ones that got in, I actually went and toured in person and was like, well, maybe they've changed them since the time that they were screenshotted for the contest or whatever, because they don't look as impressive or whatever. But hey, that's their judgment. They have specific criteria they're looking for, and there's only so much they could communicate to us before it's like, telling us specifically what to build and how to build to, do what they want. So that's totally fine. Tobe, so what are your thoughts on the landmarks of Landmark Contest? You muted.
I think round two will be a little bit easier in a way. Like you said, not just because of tools, but also because we just have a better idea of what works and what doesn't. Like, I mean, Pen and Pod even said they had to not use things because of copyright issues. They're like Rubik's Cubes, things like that people probably didn't really think about when they made them. So plus the textures, the tools, and also the frame rate issues. I mean, now we know that a lot of overlapping lights and glass and things like that, became a problem. So some things may have been really intricate and cool, but if it had any of those issues, then it, couldn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see how, and with something like once again, Tenma's Ogre City, that thing is a performance eating machine, and that sphere they showed in the first set last week, that also looked like a performance eater, just because it's so many concentric circles and there's so much open space to see all the different layers and objects in it. So it's pretty interesting which ones they decided, but they'll definitely have a what's it called, honorable mentions and such, and hopefully they'll give us a little bit of feedback to if we ask for it about some of the better ones about what it would have needed to actually be there.
I just wonder what it's going to be like when we're actually vying for one building. Like the Temple of the Mad God is the example that they kept giving, which means there's probably going to be one that is the temple, and then a handful of others that they might use in other places. Um, but the fan feelings of the builders or the contestants, I wasn't expecting it to be so demoralizing. Um, I wasn't expecting it to be demoralizing at all. um, so that's kind of interesting how the players have responded.
Yeah, and it's definitely been an interesting process to see how it's come from their first like talking about it when the game was, I think it was even at the Year of EverQuest event, where they're saying, oh yeah, we're gonna have players building things that are gonna be like permanent in game, and the things that are gonna be going into EverQuest next. And a lot of people at the time were making a face going, what? But now it's really starting to come together, and we're really starting to see that's actually the goal, and they're starting to come through with it. And especially now with Player Studio coming up here pretty soon, that's gonna amplify things to another level, because they're finally gonna have it. It sounds like they're gonna have it pretty much international, right?
That's what they're hoping for, yeah.
So that'll be totally awesome. That's coming not next Monday, but the Monday after is when they're hoping to implement that.
Yeah, and when back when they were talking about this in Year of EverQuest about landmarks in Landmark, I was thinking it was all going to be dev built landmarks, and when we got into the alpha, that they would all be there. So one, it was disappointing not to have to have the spires all look the same,
Hmm.
because I was hoping for variety, and that you would go to each place and be able to see a different landmark there. Because I think they had mentioned that even several months before, that that's what they wanted, is you go into the game, and you would tell people, meet me by this particular landmark, which we couldn't do for alpha. So that it's player landmarks, that's really cool. I mean, outstanding.
For sure, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
And I hope that we start building similar stuff near similar styled landmarks, so that the tech cube, that's the right name, right? The tech
Yes.
cube will be more sci-fi.
Yeah. TechCube is pretty awesome. All right. So, medals. Medals have finally been demonstrated. They've finally given them the same treatment that we got for at least gold, if not iron. So, that's pretty nice. Did it actually look like they lined up on the voxels, or it look like they're still off by a little bit?
I couldn't tell. I didn't watch that closely, and I didn't get to see. I still have to get a better feel of what the rivets look like. That's what I want to do the most.
It
Riveting.
looked like they lined up the same way as gold, because I mean they had gold in there even though it already had the textures for it, and it looked like they just made it all the same as the
Gotcha.
existing gold textures.
Okay, so I guess they're still waiting to do just one fell swoop mass rescaling of everything. Cool, cool. And it's gonna give us a hell of a lot to work with, because now we have not just metal and iron, but we have metal in so many different colors. I would imagine, like, Tenma once again referencing the Ogre City would go back through and use tungsten in a lot of different places, because I don't know, I feel like ogres probably like the color green for some reason. So that's something that could definitely come from it, or using the different types of rubicite I had thought of making a red fire truck during the fires in San Diego as part of one of the live stream things. But after I made a big frame with red rubicide, I was like, wow, that's gonna be like the lumpiest fire truck ever. And tried with the lumicite, and then okay, it's gonna glow now. Now, so we're gonna be able to, and the fact that they actually blend really well is another thing that's nice. So you can have strips of metal next to each other. They're not going to bleed into each other, but they're going to have the same pattern. So they'll still, you can have one type of metal plating come flush to another type of metal with the same plating, and it will look really nice and come together rather than having a seam in the actual pattern.
Yes, and I'm really curious to see what people will do with that for the Dark Elf builds. Now that we can have some variety there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the dark elf. They said they don't really want warmer colors. I've actually been thinking about how to get green and yellow together to make something that's not necessarily the usual kind of what's it called? The dark black everything with purple and maybe some red. But actually give me a little bit more of like, well, we had to make it out of sandstone, so it's gonna be this kind of yellowish
Exactly.
orange. So we'll do what we can with it and try to make it look nice.
Yeah, it
Hey,
was
Nero,
interesting
as
because
entertaining as it is, your mouse is driving chat nuts.
I don't. Where's my mouse at? My mouse is. I can't even tell where my mouse is.
It's showing up right under your chat feed on the stream.
Is this?
It's like tweaking out.
Here, I'll just put it in the corner, and if you can still see it, sorry, I can't do anything about it.
yeah, they hinted that they kind of hinted that there might be different colored areas based on the type of material that they were building from, but they like touched on it really quickly and then went in another direction. And I was thinking, yeah, if you have, non-black material and non-purple material, because you're stuck in the Umbra for whatever reason, that just happens to be the desert area of the Umbra or whatever. That could be interesting too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's I don't know how my chat got out of place here. Um, yeah, because they are stuck down there for a while, so they are kind of getting used to using certain materials only. So I could definitely see the desire to, sorry about that, folks, use the same kind of materials or the same kind of aesthetic, at least if they possibly can. Even though it's not because they have to anymore, it's just by choice. It's just part of their culture. All right, now it looks like chat is in the right place, and folks can get back to enjoying the show. Diggs, you're muted.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay. uh, yeah, different colors for different tribes. That's a good would do tribes. Actually, I wouldn't think of them as tribes so much as more clans. The kind of larger aggregations of families and peoples. Yeah, and that's that'll be an interesting thing to see with what's going on in chat there. Um, an interesting thing to see with the game is how the kind of grouping and organization system is going to either be supported by or be maybe even hindered by however players are actually going to be able to arrange, if it's going to be one one group per person, or if you're going to be able to have like a family based kind of group and a more like government based kind of group that you have separate allegiances to, because it's something I'm sure you know, Diggs, is something I've been really hoping to see with it. Tobes, what are your thoughts on the subject?
You mentioned government in the game. Do you think that's? I guess I haven't really imagined that in the landmark side of things, unless you're talking about next.
Well, it's
Um,
a little bit of both.
I know that there's already a faction that had wanted to build a city, and I'm not sure. I think that was the original idea behind Lay Spring, is that they would build a mega city, and they were expecting other mega cities to come up around it, and maybe have some that they were allied with and some they were rivals with. But they were expecting uh, trade. Once trade gets in, they were hoping that mega cities would build up and politics would form out of that. But who knows?
Yeah.
All right. So, do we want
Once
to?
we get an economy in, I mean, all kinds of economy and combat could change all kinds of stuff.
So that's
Yeah, I'd
actually
imagine the economy and combat stuff. I just never really thought about the government. That's not something. I mean, I guess I've been a part of very few games that really had a government in it, besides things related to lore. That was pre-created by the game creators. So it'd be interesting to see how much player-created content, I guess, is related to that.
yeah. Well, usually government is something that already exists, that you're just this, one unit in an NPC controlled world. Like I think of World of Warcraft, for example, you're basically just the equivalent of a knight or a even just a thug or whatever who's representing a one specific faction or another, or your specific culture, I suppose, in this case, because you can't be a human representing orcs. Um, but it's a really interesting sort of thing. Wondering about how government could actually be developed and manipulated, especially because in EverQuest Next, since the Combine Army is trying to be this new thing that's trying to have everybody be equal and be together in moving forward and setting up again while being able to resist the dragons should they come around. Um, and that's the other thing. I'm not really sure if the dragons are still going to be aggressing them at that point. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how Twitch is going to affect grouping, how Twitch is going to affect groups and guilds and possible governments, and will everybody in a stream just be one big guild? So you won't even care about family versus guild versus, I mean, who knows? I think in the original idea that I heard about these mega cities, though, was that um, I'm sure it was Lay Spring. They would have a theater district, they would have a shop district, uh, you know, and if you have different districts and probably a military district, um, and they're expecting to be have a rivalry of trade, for tools and things, weapons, I guess, with other megacities. But again, if you have different stream groups, I just can't imagine how that will affect everything.
Are you talking about for Landmark or next?
Or Landmark and Next, but I mean, even just starting with Landmark, and the idea of how people group, because it seems like we already have the bearded warriors, and we have what's Omid's group,
the O
The O
team.
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 And
Yeah.
there's more and more groups that are continuing to come through. Coalition, I'm sure, when there's actually more content, will start coming back through again.
And so I think the idea of guild is even looser than it used to be. Like, you don't have to have the rules of you better show up once a week. and raid. It's just like, hey, I'm going to be streaming now. If you want to stream, come to my stream. And now I'm ending, go over that guy's stream. So grouping is just going to be very interesting, I think, in general.
We're already seeing it in a lot of other games. Like I've noticed even with, newer stuff like WildStar. I mean, the coalition, the subscribers get to be in the guild, or, you know what I mean? Different streamers have their groups with different requirements. And yeah, I think that'll play a huge part in it with Twitch.
Yeah.
And I find I don't know, the way I relate to Twitch is, I recognize somebody in chat saying, hey, can you help me with this? And I'm like, yeah, I know you. Sure.
Yeah. Equithid says here, guilds will be dev teams. Well, to some extent, when we get the ability to create our own content and, make our own dungeons and stuff, yeah, definitely that's going to be the case. Guilds are also going to be our performance groups, our machinima entertainers, like Dygz has been talking about doing. So we're definitely going to have groups of players doing a lot of things, just in Landmark, being able to enhance and improve upon the content of what's already there. Alright.
A wild Omid appears.
Yay! Hey, Maid.
So
Speaking of the O team.
How do you envision, or does the influx of followers through Twitch change your original vision of the necessity for having families versus groups versus governments versus guilds? How does that change that vision? Because I think when I was first thinking about it, I was expecting players to come in and group up inside the game to form the family or the guild. But it seems like we're forming our bonds through Twitch and Twitter outside of the game first. And then I don't know if there's a reason for me to try and divvy that up into family versus guilds now that I already have individuals that I like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely for the longest time. Most of the people I know in real life, as friends I go to school with and stuff, aren't gamers, and if they are, they don't play the kind of games I do. A lot of them are more the console gamers. So, for me to be playing a game like Landmark and trying to find friends who are also playing Landmark and are also interested in it. It's not like back in the days of elementary school when there just was like, say you've got a Genesis or you've got a Super Nintendo, you've got an NES. Actually, in elementary schools, you've got an NES or you've got a Sega Master System, or you've got something older. Maybe all you've got is like a TRS-80 and like 200 games or something on it, but they're all in black and white. Um, so times have changed. That there's so many different distribution platforms out there, and there's so many different ways for people to find and play their games that the people you do find who actually are gamers might be playing diversely different things, and they might just genuinely have no interest in the games you're playing.
Yeah, but so it seems like what happens because even the streamer with the fewest number of people tend to have at least 6 people show up
Yeah.
when they stream. So you automatically like have a group almost of people that return and will talk because they're already talking in your chat. So finding a small group seems like it's going to be relatively easy for streamers. And then the larger ones will have enough people, 50, 100, that those can break it down into individual subgroups. So
I would say the streamers are also, like, streamers and people who watch the streams are only a small portion of the people that are actually playing. I would say more in alpha were like the higher percentage of people who played the game and also watched the stream. And as we get further and further along, there will be less people that watch the streams and play the game and are on that level of being informed with it. So
I just wonder because it seems to me like Twitch is being really used to grow the player base. I mean, and as people, because I remember during when what was it that came in? Snow? The new biomes came in? Do you remember that night where like thousands of people were just hanging out and there was new
Yeah,
people and they were like, "What the hell is this?" And I can't, the server's down, so I can't even play this game, but I'm waiting, I'm waiting. And I think more and more of that is going to happen, and that's how the bulk I think that's how the bulk of the Landmark player base is going to be grown, is through thousands of people watching streamers play a really cool game.
yeah. And the streaming part is definitely a big part of it, and it's a good way to bring in a lot of other people from a lot of other communities, especially as we get further along. Once we get it to the point where people can just walk in the game, they don't have to pay anything, they don't need to, hustle for a code or something from anybody. It's just, oh, I can just download this game and play it, and if I don't like it, uninstall. So, that'll be the point where we're going to see a lot of people, and yeah, we will see a lot of people probably get in, see something amazing, build a crap shack, and be like, I don't get it, and uninstall. But we're probably going to have plenty more people that are like, oh my god, it's like Terraria or Korea or Starbound or one of those games, but it's in 3D, holy crap. Or
I
it's
just as you were
Minecraft but in better detail.
just as you were saying that, I just realized how cool it would be, as because we're the developers, we're going to be developing dungeons, and we're going to be like, hey, I need beta testers.
Oh yeah.
Come beta test my dungeon.
But the funny thing
That's kind of
is,
interesting.
our beta testers are going to be sometimes the SOE dev team. I'm sure we're going to see people that actually work on combat who will be like, okay, this place is an awesome dungeon. I've heard a lot about it. I'm going to give it a crack myself. I'm going to bring 2 or 3 people from the dev team. We're just going to, give it a shot and see how it is. And they might go through and be like, holy damn, that's exactly what, like, the gameplay experience needs to be. That's really ideal for someone who's making an encounter, is for that to be the thing that everybody loves it so much that it just has to be a part of the game, either in Landmark because it's just the context of Landmark because it's some sort of sci-fi thing, or something that would fit in with EverQuest Next and just be an amazing encounter to have in there. It might not have anything to do with any of the story. It could just be this completely unique, random, weird event, but be a hell of a lot of fun.
That's where I'm hoping there'll actually be a decent amount of people that stick around with Landmark, even after Next comes out. I mean, I know a lot of people are just using it to tide them over, but I think it'll be, especially from a creative perspective, and like you're talking about with dungeons and needing to be certain themes, like Landmark will be a lot more open to various themes, while Next is going to have a set lore and, more of a fantasy style. So the sci fi folks will still maybe hopefully want an outlet, to be able to build in a
Oh yeah.
completely sandboxed, style.
Oh yeah, I am definitely gonna sci-fi it up. So once we have some more of the advanced techniques, I really want to make some, I guess, throwback tanks in the style of like Planet Side One, and even more throwback than that to Naris, the SOE's very first game, and actually be able to apply physics to those one way or another, whether that's a player studio sort of thing, or if that's going to be some sort of like voxel Gary's mod that we'll get to play with later on. Either way, it should be a lot of fun.
I think I'm thinking most landmark people will be going back and forth to some degree.
Okay, so the official item for this month, it's 2 words. Omid just revealed it. It's broken. No, that's why it hasn't been distributed yet. There's just some issues with it. So, no biggie. We might still be able to get Omid drunk enough to leak it before it gets sent out, but otherwise, we'll see him sometime next week. Should be a lot of fun. I'm sure there'll be a ton of them being given away in the show during the E3 broadcast because hype and all that stuff.
That reminds me, we'll be one day saying, back in the day, we used to be able to get Omid so drunk that he would leak great information, but now he learned his lesson. It's not as fun anymore.
No, he just has he eats enough foie gras that it kind of coats his own liver and protects it from whatever alcohol he's going to consume. It's this weird ritual that Omidus, the Punisher of other people's livers, has apparently developed. Um, so, speaking of stuff that's coming, actually, speaking of swimming, since booze.
So excited for swimming.
Yes, swimming, and then the leak, heroic diving that Dave talked about, and Terry is like, well, we haven't talked about that, but yes, there's going to be her. It's like, that's awesome. That's totally going to be cool.
I'm still waiting for villainous movement.
Instead of heroic. That's awesome.
Those are the landworms that just kind of burrow through the world and then track you down like some sort of land shark or something. That's villainous move. I don't know if we're gonna.
But I would love to be able to have my character like be hunched over, even be zombie-ish, or old and decrepit, or just thriller-esque, whatever. That would be cool. We should have villainous.
It'll be like the /angry or / drunk and everything, where you can just put yourself in a mode and then all your movements change based on what mode you're in.
/zombie.
Is it Schrodinger cat who likes to do that? I think, or Noodle cat. Maybe it's Noodle cat who likes to be drunk. I think she was drunk during Lay Spring Building Academy. She was teaching people how to do voxels, but she was drunk the whole time. It's really crazy.
That's funny. Yeah, I've done that for Castles and Crab Shacks, I think, once or twice.
That's actually a great idea for Castles and Crab Shacks. That should be the whole spiel. Oh my god, this is so trippy.
You just do a tavern themed tour. Just have everyone submit events who made like something with a tavern or a bar, and just theme your movements.
Oh no! Things are bugging out for a second here. It'll either fix itself or it won't. Hopefully Dygz will be able to come on back.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. All right. So, the other thing that was talked about is being able to work with your claims underwater and mine underwater, which means hopefully we'll actually be able to do seamless work going from above water to below water, because before I noticed unless I used very specific techniques, I wasn't able to do anything underwater, and that was unfortunately, the caveat a lot of people's ideas that you would have some amount of space that you'd be able to do something with underwater, but even though you could get down there, you couldn't reliably build down there. So now it sounds like they're going to have features that you can actually be able to work down there. They said they've got a mining animation that works really cool underwater, and I just imagine like how you've actually got to represent that to keep the character in place, but represent the weight of them swinging the pick while trying to stay in place. It's a really interesting. I just think about the challenge of trying to represent the physical masses in a way that just doesn't come off as completely comical.
That's true.
Yeah, how do we swim with our tools in our hand? I hadn't even thought about that. Huh.
Probably just how you run with them. I mean, they're probably still going to show them unless you choose to hide it.
Yeah, but like there's a special... I mean, it feels special when you're holding your tool. Like I think they adjusted how you hold your axe.
They do, yeah. Now
Yeah.
when you're running it, like it actually has a sense of weight to it. While earlier it just kind of like swung up and next to your face with you.
Well, there was also that in the previous exposition I would be able to exploit. Whenever somebody was standing on a pedestal or something, I could stand behind them and do wave, and it would just axe them in the head. I can't remember who I was doing that to during one of their live streams, but it was the first PvP enabled that I was able to do in Landmark. It was funny. Yeah. No, I don't Throckmorton, I don't think it's going to be cement shoes. I don't think we're walking underneath the water. It's not Planetside 1 with the underwater walk of shame, which is a hilarious consequence that would happen because the game didn't have swimming, but it did have drowning and had bailing safely out of vehicles. So sometimes you'd bail safely out of a vehicle out in the middle of the ocean. So the only way out was death, but there was no suicide feature. So it's just the underwater walk of shame until you finally drowned.
So maybe some month
Later,
coming up,
Omid.
we're gonna need a. I was hoping he would stay so I could hint about a possible underwater breathing item.
They're not.
Maybe.
I don't think they would make something like that giveaway only. That's probably one of the special items that you'll only be able to find in caves.
Yeah, I liked how they said that there would be a fair amount, it sounded like, of items that were going to be cave treasure chest only.
Yeah,
It's going to be interesting.
that's gonna be a lot of fun. So that's actually something I'm really, really, really interested in. An underwater breathing. Yes, something for breathing underwater. Exactly, Omid. You probably already know more about the subject than we do. So, anyway.
So he did stick around long enough to hear the idea.
Yep.
That's all we need.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to keep to support to support explorers, but also to get those people who don't necessarily normally explore to spend a lot of time exploring, just so that they can, find something really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, given that we've only seen either harvesting tools or maybe, I guess it'd be like harvesting tools, very specific materials or props, or I guess what else could potentially be in those caves, in the chests? Mobility items. Because there's definitely a lot of things that could be in there. Oh, call drop, by the way. He'll be back in just a sec. See you later, Omid. Thank you very much for coming through. Really appreciate it. Dygz.
Biomead.
Dygz. No. Alright.
They did say that all the items would eventually become available to everyone, but that it was more just an early access. So apparently there will be ways later on, if you don't have a feather in a bottle and, you join the game when it's, free to play or whatever.
They said there'll be ways to get those abilities. They didn't necessarily say, like, there already is an item that gives you a high jump. It's just not the lunar anklet. There's potentially going to be items we can craft that increase our crafting quality, but none of them are going to be the quality of the crafting bracer. That sort of stuff. I don't think it's like we'll be able to get a double jump. Maybe it won't be as powerful. We'll have a slight forward momentum built into it or something, but everyone can craft it.
Like the
Right.
grappler, there's a grappler, but there's no prime grappler.
Well, I have the prime grappler.
No,
I use it to Rexog's races.
we can craft other grapplers, but we can't craft a prime grappler.
Right. And actually, I read something in the patch notes. I didn't realize there was a third grappler. Apparently, there's a third grappler.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because they said they were renaming one of them, but I didn't even realize that third one existed.
Yeah. So they must have either snuck it in or they snuck in a patch note about something they actually hadn't put in. Which could happen, I could see, like, in all the updating that just being kind of a silly oversight. Whatever, it's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure chat
Speaking
will let
of-
us know if that third one exists or not.
Did you guys notice how they trolled us for a second there as they talked about how they were flying over the claims as they were taking a look at them? They were flying over the claims. When do we
Yeah.
get flying?
Well, it'll only be on claim flying if
Still.
we get it, and it'll probably be. I'm wondering if it'll be one of those advanced features like the permissions you can assign to people is like flight and no flight, or at different levels you can assign that these people can also enable claim flight or not. So you could, because I could see a spectator being a class that you could have on the claim where they don't really have access to anything except they can fly on the claim and they can use the text input so people will see messages across their screen announcing the different things going on.
Spectator, spectating commenter.
Yes,
Um,
or referee or whatever the heck it is, but it would just, it'd be a really nice feature to have when we actually get to that point with stuff.
but we've been waiting all year to be able to fly.
Yeah, I know.
Just saying.
I've
That's funny.
I think it's one of those things that they're not going to give it to us until there's actual combat and splatter damage. Like Dave said, meat pancakes for everybody. I actually quoted that one on Twitter. Oh, and I should once again mention to everybody, if you don't already know, the feather in a bottle only works if you jump first. If you fall off a surface and then press the spacebar, you will not get a second jump. You will splatter.
That is true.
So that'll be important for combat when you actually knock people off of platforms and they don't have that second jump to save themselves.
Or nice to know once falling damage is in.
Yeah. I mean, combat, that's, July is next month. Holy crap. It's going to be here soon.
Crazy, right? Because when you first hear about it and they first put out the blueprint, you're like, oh, that's, that's months away.
The
But
blueprint.
it's June already.
Yes. And, that's the thing. Like, if it's been obviously it's been a few months. We're week 11 after the 8-week alpha. But even in that period of time, it feels like it went really, really fast, and a hell of a lot's gotten done.
Speaking of kind of tangentially, there's no stream next week because of E3. What days are you going to be in E3, Nero?
Oh, well, I'm going to be there all 3 days.
Okay.
I'll post a schedule of when I'm going to be volunteering at the IGDA booth. They're usually in the main lobby where you don't actually need a pass. People are kind of maybe sort of expected to have a pass if they're in that area, but you don't actually have to. So I'll post a schedule. If anybody's in the Los Angeles area and wants to come by and say what's up, I'll be there for a few hours. And, a bunch of parties I'm probably going to be going to afterward too, and prowling around saying what's up to people. Definitely going to say hello to Pentapod in the NVIDIA booth outside. That should be fun. Well, I hope there's a lot of fans and misters or something, because it is going to be hot.
Yeah, seriously.
I'm going to be sneaking my way in, I think, but I'll be around. So we should hang out for lunch or after parties or something. But I'll be around for that for sure.
Sneaking. Are you going to be using Joe someone else's last name pass?
I used to work for Activision for 10 years, so I got plenty of friends who will be there.
Okay, so this is the funniest thing. A few years ago, there was a place that I was hanging out with and saying what's up to the people, and I found out they actually had more people in their booth than they actually had passes. And what they did is, unless you wouldn't get hustled if you were inside the booth's like officey area. So they just had like 5 or 6 people hanging out in there, and they only had 2 or 3 passes. So they'd have one person go out and run passes to the next person, bring them in, and then from a different doorway, and then they keep rinse repeat. So they'd have a bunch of people actually inside and able to kind of check things out, even though they didn't actually have their badges. And once you're inside, they don't really hassle you for the badges too much unless you're trying to win something. And even then, generally not, unless they just scan you for whatever because they're a vendor. So it's usually no big deal at that point, unless you're trying, unless you walk out and you're trying to get back in.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Did you see? We shouldn't spend so much time on E3 coming up necessarily, but did you see I saw a schedule for H1Z1 stream for 20 minutes, but I didn't see one for Landmark.
The Landmark one, I believe, is going to be on Wednesday. I mean, they'll post the details if they haven't already, but there's definitely going to be one. They said Landmark is going to be the focus. So I'm expecting to find Landmark
Okay.
on computers everywhere and be like, hey, I know that crap shack.
Well,
Or
yeah, I know we'll be able to play there, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see a schedule for them streaming something. But I did see one for H1Z1. That's what just why I was wondering if I missed something.
actually, I'm probably going to say, hey, you better put some boards under those roof shingles. You can't just have roof shingles sitting out there without any boards under. Yes, people who've seen Castles and Craft Shacks know exactly what I'm talking about. Alright,
So what else do we have in the update?
well, we didn't really talk about caves in detail at all. So caves are going to be awesome. They're coming on Monday.
Monday. Okay, that's
They're coming on Monday, so that way they can show them off in game, whether they're doing a local server or online server at E3. It'll be nice.
And then they say there's like two different phases of caves. Like one will be
Yes.
shallower than the other.
Yes, right now we're basically getting caves light. It's from what I understand, the islands are still going to be the same tiers that they are right now, but there will be surface caves that go down 600 to 700 units if you use slash location, or approximately 1200 voxels, and I'm not sure if they're talking about the smallest size voxel or what measurement they're talking about there, but that's pretty deep. That's you're going to be going down a little ways, and the fact that they're actually going to have treasure chests in there. It's not just going to be, hey, there's caves, there's material, have fun, but there's actually going to be stuff for us to discover, and there'll actually be potentially items of varying quality that will enhance what we currently would have available, or improve upon rather. So that'll be really, really cool.
Yeah, and I like that they're not all going to be caves that have surface entrances. I think it's really cool that there are some that
Right.
you will only discover that are just caverns with no connection to the open world.
And some of that's like, I don't know if it's by design or was just an artifact of the system, but I would say a lot of that comes from the good 2D prototype Terraria that they actually did base a lot of, or kind of uses a big influence for the game. That there are a lot of cave systems in that which aren't actually connected, and the only way to connect them is to just kind of dig your way through. Now,
Right.
we'll have the resource detection system, so it'll be able to help people kind of find their way from point A to point B through a cave system into a kind of an uncharted one. And that's actually something I kind of wanted to talk about for a second. That resource detection system.
Is that coming in at the same time as the first caves?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Now they've said that it's going to be useful for not just seeing materials that are on the surface nearby, like on walls and contours nearby you, but also be able to see a little ways away where something can be, so you can kind of burrow your way to it. Now I can see a lot of people saying, "Oh, that sucks. That's cheater status. That's it breaks the game. It breaks the immersion." But I see it the completely opposite way. All the way up to this point, if I'm color deficient and I'm trying to discern one material from another, I've got no help. I've got zero help. I actually had to help somebody. I can't remember who it was, and I don't think I'd name them anyway if I did. That needed obsidian, or maybe it was they needed a rubicite rather, and they would keep finding obsidian instead. So
Yeah.
I just did a big old mass trade of materials, and it worked out well for the temporary situation, but for the long term, you can't have everybody who's color deficient relying on other cool people that they can trade with to be able to get their materials. They need to be able to be self-sufficient. It needs to be able to be played as a single player game should somebody want to play the sandbox in that way. So I don't see the resource detection as a cheat or a cop out in any way, but actually something to be highly enabling, especially as we get not only new generations of gamers in, but all of the old gamers that they're getting on in their years now that have been playing EverQuest since the very very early days. So it's a really good thing for the game. There's going to be naysayers, and that's going to happen with every feature, but I think it's pretty much a win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we have enough of a challenge just with the skill set of the outstanding builders versus the average builder. I don't think we need to have a huge challenge competition over just getting resources. I mean, geez,
Right.
if you can't build, at least you can do something.
Yeah.
And then it affects like your in-game money too, because I mean, the different resources they made it sound like we're gonna sell for different amounts once the NPCs and the actual in-game currency is in there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, when beta first started, my I have a um, all-in-one computer, so I have a integrated chip, so the terrain was black for the first 2 weeks until they optimized enough for me to be able to see the terrain, and that just I was like, well, I can give you some wood. I'll chop some burled wood if you can get me some metal. Like, I mean, what are you even offering then? Like, so yeah, being able to actually gather your own resources is important. That's like baseline.
It is. And how that's actually going to play into things when we have even the surface caves will be really nice because we'll actually have the first glimpses of how long these veins are actually going to be, and that's going to be a big deal because that's from pretty much way back before we could actually even play the game. They had showed off screenshots of these big veins just like snaking all the way around going up to the skybox, and the idea that they can have the veins go as long and as deep as they want, and they'll probably be doing that in the caves. They'll have really, really long veins with a lot of materials chaining one after the other. That'll be
Mm-hmm.
really nice, and that'll actually promote group harvesting. Right now, there's no reason for me to harvest as a group. I'm just giving the other person materials, or we're both having half the efficiency because we're having to share the nodes. Meanwhile, either one of us can eat through that node in like 5 seconds, and we're spending more time running between nodes than we are actually harvesting. This is completely different. We're going to be spending most of the time actually harvesting if that's the material we're trying to harvest. Otherwise, if we're just trying to explore, we're just exploring, and if we see material we like, sure, we'll get after it a little bit, but then we'll probably go back to the exploration path we were on.
Yeah, and
It's
it'll
gonna
it'll be neat watching the progression too, because I mean we'll have this version of caves, but then grouping and exploring is going to be even more different once combat and NPCs are in, because I think you'll see more people wanting someone to go with them exploring once there are more monsters and things like that. So hopefully it'll help, because I feel like at this point too most of us are just like, I mean, yeah, sure, group farming's fun sometimes, but it's not that worth it all the time, especially for those of us that have been playing and have more resources than we need at this point. But once monsters are a thing, like I'll probably be asking for people to go with me at least till I have awesome armor and weapons and stuff like that.
Yep. And I don't know what they're going to give us. We might just start with the very basic material or the very basic equipment. It's like, yep, you got your copper equipment, and good luck. You have to find recipes for everything else. Or maybe we'll even be more basic than that. You've got a copper sword. You've got whatever accessories and trinkets and stuff you equip that give you whatever attributes, and good luck.
Right. It'll be interesting to see too how many of either current or future recipes will be ones that you have to discover. Like how many of them are actually considered the default basic versus how many have to be discovered in the world.
So that brings up an interesting point, though. Are we going to have another tool wipe? Like, what recipes are we going to be trying to discover? I mean, they're going to change it so that we have to discover recipes, but why would we even try to discover them since we already have all our tools?
There is a wipe though now, before open beta or release.
Well,
The
Yeah.
I think I know before open beta, but I think of that as being like kind of down the road. You think they'll wait for that recipe thing until after that wipe?
No, 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 no. They're gonna have to
Uh,
test the recipe system sooner. Those might
Yeah.
be some of the things we're gonna be finding in the caves. Is the recipes for our equipment.
But what I'm saying is, what is our incentive to look for those recipes if we already have them?
Well,
All we
we
have right now is really for mining and stuff, though. It's
yeah.
not anything to do with weapons or shields or armor. Like, eventually, we're gonna have
That's true.
slots, like, we'll have a boot slot and a chest slot and that kind of thing. Like,
That's true.
maybe we'll have to discover stuff for that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And even things that aren't actually functional, just cosmetic things, just your costume
Mhm.
stuff. There's probably gonna be a lot of that, probably way more of that than there is actual functional equipment. Just so people can make their character look nice and establish whatever aesthetic they want for themselves and the NPCs on their claim.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just in the treasure chests, I would like to see that be a lot of cosmetics, but I don't want to get my hopes up because that's what I'm mostly looking forward to is costumes.
Well, costumes and more things. Potentially emotes and animations and special particle effects that we can use on our claim in different ways. There's a lot of stuff they could make discoverable where it's like, yeah, you can either find the recipe and craft it, or you can purchase them from Player Studio. When you have to find the recipe before you can craft the thing, then that really incentivizes using Player Studio. Imagine if the Lumicite, the lights were released day one, not with the shenanigans that went down, but you can find the recipe or you can buy them. That would have been a really successful implementation. I think a lot of people would have had a lot of fun, going in that the world and trying to discover them. You only need the recipe once to be able to craft them, and then that actually starts to establish trade. If you found half of them and someone else has found half of them and you just want to start building, you just make whatever and trade back and forth between one another, one for one.
I can't imagine us crafting emotes, but if they do that, I'm gonna have to buy you a beer, send you some bucks. That's kind of a wild idea, crafting emotes, but
It makes me
okay.
think more of like Dota 2, for those of you who played it, where you can actually, at the end of the match, you get loot at the end of the match, and you can actually get emotes for different characters and stuff, like as a usable item that binds to your account,
Yeah.
which was kind of interesting.
I mean, they could have even more flavor. Just your death sequence when you die. If you die in combat, instead of the normal death, it could be like a very dramatic. Ah, I have been struck down and I fall, and they fall backwards in a hilarious way after that. Something like that. That's definitely the sort of thing I would expect them to be able to add as just funny features, and maybe things that are a little above what we'll be able to do with SOE mode in terms of like full body animations.
I mean, that would be great to have your signature emote because it's a rare emote. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Or using a combination of emotes that you have dramatic death, but you also put the drunk modifier on it. So while they're doing the thing, they're also kind of staggering and stammering with the voice modification. That'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, so a little bit more about the unconnected caverns. That's something that I'm really excited for because that like I've said, it's the hallmark of the procedural 2D sandbox world at this point. They all have them, and it's part of the just the effect of how you create the procedural caves. It's some amount of telling it how much it's going to just occupy space, and then it determines whether it's going to have an outlet here or how it's going to work. Kriya, the developer, was saying that he kind of uses these stamps, that it's basically this kind of portion of stuff can fit here, this kind of portion of stuff can fit here, and just kind of stamping out where the areas of like what can be content and what can be an actual pathway versus what's just kind of becomes sealed off because the stamps didn't line up to create a path out from that point. So it should be really interesting to see how it all comes together, and it'll be really, because this is in a 3D space, so there's going to be so much more to it. Um, Obviously, people are going to actually be using pulverizers, and it'll actually be a meaningful tool. They were fun before, But now it'll be, you want to find that next cave system. You and everybody else go in first person, dig straight down, make a giant tunnel, or maybe do it at an angle so you can get back out. That's going to be a lot of fun too. Is just pulverizing parties. You're muted.
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking about pulverizers and EQ Next. Because you know that when they first last year at SOE Live talked about us jumping down to those cave layers, we didn't know anything about pulverizers. I hadn't even, I was wondering at the time, well, how do we get down there?
I thought of earth burrowing machinery, or just either combat events where you destroy the world, or otherwise cave entrances that get you down, or just being able to have like a magic spell I think of from like Ultima, where it's like, okay, you just descend to the next floor that you can stand upon. That could definitely just teleport to the next standable location.
Yeah, there are ways. I'm just saying, I hadn't even thought about the pulverizer in EQ Next and
Actually,
what that might be like if we could bring the tool over. It's kind of an interesting idea.
In EQ Next, it's actually one of the big things I'm looking forward to in combat is people trying to undermine each other. So you have to design castles not just for the surface and people attacking there, but even more for the hordes and hordes and hordes of kobolds and whatever nasty creatures might be burrowing forth underneath.
That's right.
Tobe, sorry, you were going to say something, but you were muted.
Yeah, no, I was just making sound effects.
Oh.
Nothing important. I was just thinking when he was talking about ways of getting down. When you said the whole like teleporting down to the next standable level, that's where I was just kind of commenting. I hadn't heard of that before. Kind of made me think of like a mage blinking down or something.
Yeah.
But when I first saw that Request Next video, I was, imagining more like the spell effects, like you were saying from combat, because that's kind of how they were demoing it, and like with a boss fight, having, the stuff you're throwing at each other or magical things actually destroying the land. And then, of course, with Landmark, I always think of dynamite too. I mean, being able to either craft or, having something that you can help yourself dig or create craters or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that dynamite's fun. I want like packs of dynamite though, so I can have a much larger explosion that I could throw at a time. Like something that, there's the current dynamite. Yeah, you're gonna kind of blow out an area, and it's gonna make a divot you can walk into. I want something that you have to like set down and walk away from for a few seconds, and it's like, okay, area's clear.
Or one that has like multiple detonations, skipping rocks in the water where it goes boom and then it goes in deeper and then explodes again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think a chain reaction.
Gonna take castles and crap shacks to a whole new level, huh? It's a crap shack.
If it's a crap shack with voxels destruction and PvP enabled, that is gonna happen. I'm sure people will actually do that and invite me to their place just to have that happen.
It's just a bunch of stations anyway.
Yeah, it might just end up becoming a demolition show, just about like how to best place the explosives to blow up crap shacks and Landmark.
It's a great gimmick. That's a crap shack.
Yeah.
Did I do it? What do you think? Vote. Is it a crap shack? Do we blow it up? Yeah.
Oh man, that would turn it into a total game show.
Oh, man.
Oh man, I would need to get some like someone who's even more like radio and television friendly than myself to be the spokesperson for that show, or be the announcer voice in the corner or whatever. Be a lot of fun. All right, so we talked a bit about the oh wait, there's actually a few more things to talk about here. Optimizations. They talked about optimizations, like level of detail stuff that they're working on. They didn't really talk much about it, but optimizations. Get hype.
I just loved how they talked about level of detail in the Dark Elf builds. That was I hadn't been thinking about that, but that's important for us to think about when we're building, I guess.
Yeah, well,
Thickness of the walls.
level of detail for, and this is something that I had actually talked about going back even before the Year of EverQuest event, is being able to set specific items, a specific part of the claim, to having a different level of detail consideration so that it can be seen in better detail from further away, or being able to have like 8-way screenshots of the build or something like that. So you've got basically a photograph of the build from very far away that kind of works as a stand-in until you get close enough that the level of detail can actually do whatever it is justice and render it properly in the environment.
Right. One thing that actually, I mean, I've seen some pretty impressive shots from that I think is underused is the map view. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
I remember with the super claim, like Dave Georgeson went on there on his like super duper high quality monitors and took a screenshot of the mega claim from map view, and it was amazing. Like, especially once you get to bigger builds, I think that should be used more for screenshots.
Yeah,
yeah.
Nero, weren't you in a city? You were I think it was Castles and Crap Shacks you were reviewing, and it was the one that had the like the ice giant on the outside of the city, and the meteor had gone through and hit a portion of the city. And he was like,
Yeah.
"Look at it in map view. Look at it in map view," and you're like, "Oh my god!"
That was New Landmark City, I believe. Let's see if I have the note here. Yeah, yeah, New Landmark City. That was the build. I don't
It was
remember the
almost better to look
location,
at.
but
I mean, it was cooler to look at in some ways from map view than it was just moving through the city. It was incredible.
well, in map view, it looks like something that's like, okay, so when do I unpause and tell the people to pay their taxes and start managing traffic? Because it definitely it looked like some sort of a Sims game going on for sure.
It really did.
It was awesome. Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
that's
they
a
said
great build.
they had found a different exploit that allowed them to make a mega city. Is that the same place?
Well, there was the one in alpha, and then there was a smaller group of folks in beta that was also able to get more than the four claims together. But those were all due to bugs that weren't intended. So
Yeah.
Which is in some ways unfortunate because I really would like to be able to actually, span claims together. Maybe not necessarily in, I mean, I'd love to be able to have giant clusters like that, but even have, route A, route B, there's the red space in between, but actually being able to build a chain of structures up along from one to the other. So that way, however many claims it would take, 2, 3, 4 a piece, however many it would take to connect them, people could actually do that. So you can actually take over an entire island and actually build it up, you and your buddies, and do something really awesome with it. Especially, I kind of think of the trick I had with the original Sims game, where even though you can only do a 2-story house, you could actually cheat that and give yourself more room if you terraformed the outside to be more grass out there. So you have the second floor extend out to grass, and then you just build the next house or the next 2 floors of the house out past that on basically its own first and second floor on terrain. So that kind of what I think about a little bit with that sort of building. But being able to link together, like my buddies and I have an island. I've got this larger kind of hilly area, and he's got the opening of the cove there. So his build would end up kind of here, and mine would kind of end up here. So they'd be able to line up in a way that would work together, but we'd pretty much have to be building a staircase like right together to match.
I know they want to get there, but they said that there's an optimization thing I think happening with having too many claims, too many
oh yeah.
different people's claims together.
Yeah.
But they want to get that down. So hopefully in the next few months, they should put that on the blueprint.
Yeah, well, I'm saying even just being able to stretch like a line of claims together wouldn't be nearly as impactful as a dense, 3 by 3 in
Right.
one area. course, one claim can be enough to wreck somebody's machine, so.
It's true.
You want lights? We've got lights. You want microvoxel grids and fences everywhere? We got them. You walk in this place, it's going to be struggling to even load everything. Level of detail, 10 feet in front of you. It's going down.
And some of the like the plant props too, because I remember the Mega Claim in Alpha, like the CPU killer for a lot of people was that garden, with all the luminescent, like the plants and stuff, all the particle effects.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous.
Thankfully, I never went to that section of the city, I think, but
I had like just gotten my new computer, so I was just watching everyone else disappear, and I was like, haha, I can see it on Ultra.
Yeah, no, it was definitely nice. I mean, also, the mega city, what was that? Lethality's big thing.
Yep.
I did definitely appreciate that not only did it kill people's machines, but the people's machines that could run it, they're running in the least optimized form of the game that we'll ever see in the earliest of alpha. Because as soon as they jumped from alpha to beta, they gave us that more optimized client where they changed the scale of voxels and everything, and things have been definitely a lot smoother since then. The gears grinding in the corner are they're not constant. It isn't go some amount of distance and then wait for the gears and go a little bit and wait for the gears. So they've definitely come
back
a long
in
way
the
with
day
it.
when we tried to grapple,
Yeah, no.
barely even go to.
Actually, it was back in the day when you tried to get somewhere, you had to grapple from object to object because you couldn't actually physically run in the world, and that was the only way you could move yourself. That was actually it was the funniest thing with the Prime Grappler is that the only way when you had the gears to actually move and even be able to get away from whatever you were trying to load is that you could actually grapple from object to object to the rocks and the trees nearby.
Yeah.
But that also using the grappler tended to shift the direction of the camera, and without a compass, it was really hard to tell. So sometimes you'd be grappling away and just be going right back where you came from. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and a lot of people in chat are talking about like just optimizing voxels, but I think they have talked about it a fair amount that it's not just micro voxels or voxel work. It's the lighting and the glass and things like that, or like the luminescent plants. I think the voxels themselves are not. It doesn't sound like those are the biggest problems. Like I know that was an issue with the Landmarks competition. It wasn't.
Well, I would say they are and they aren't. If you're just using solid masses, it's not as big of a deal. But if you've got, just the microvoxel wire fence and you've just got a grid of them or just a cube of them, it's going to kill anybody's performance because it has to draw essentially it's got to draw layers with alpha at that point. It's drawing a layer behind a layer behind a layer behind a layer behind a layer, and having to interpolate for all of that and trying to anti-alias any of that. It's beastly for any machine to have to deal with.
True. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had not been expecting glass to make as much of an impact as using a lot of glass apparently does.
Yeah, there's builds where you just walk in there and it kills the machine. Some of the stuff Evil Effects was doing, he was making columns with glass, and that's a ton of glass. Holy crap, that's a lot of glass.
Yeah.
But it didn't actually hinder my performance too badly, and it looked really nice. Man, that guy can make good use of glass, though. Holy crap. If you folks haven't seen, was it Brelamos, something like that? Evil Effects in game. He's one of my favorite builders for sure. Makes amazing, amazing stuff.
That's where I feel like too when people keep talking about competitions. I feel like the farther along in the beta timing, I guess, the more advantage you'd have in yet another way, as far as the more optimized the game gets, the more you can get away with, I feel like, in your builds.
Yeah, for sure. Like eventually Tenma's Ogre City will actually run on people's computers and not be just, the processor murderer. But for right now, the best of machines is still going to struggle with it just because the level of detail that goes into it, voxels and props, is just amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No build I can really think of kills my machine like his does.
Another thing they were talking about in chat earlier that I thought was interesting that I haven't really heard people discuss that much is the music. I know they didn't they mention at one point, not this Landmark Live, but at some point about wanting to have different biomes have different music. I think that'd be really nice because frankly, I tend to
Coming
turn my
soon.
music down. I mean, I love orchestrated music, but when you hear the same theme songs over and over,
Yeah, isn't that? I thought they were trying to get that in for the E3 for E3.
They might have been. I just have no idea where things are at with it.
Yeah, but
I
I
can't
thought that
remember
was
the last
I
time
mean,
they. When did they mention it?
thought that was like a week or two ago when they were talking about what they were hoping to have in by E3 was more of Jeremy Soul's music.
Well, they may yet have it. I don't know if they're waiting for the music from him or if they've got it and they're just trying to link it up in game. It might be something where maybe we're just going to have a different music for being in the caves versus not being in the caves. Even that would be enough to add a little bit of extra variety to it. But definitely biomes having their own, individual music to them is going to be a big deal when it does come around.
yeah,
We really, really, really need a new set of music for delving into the caves and searching for treasure. I mean,
that would be awesome.
just
Yeah.
gotta do it.
Or even well, the caves and then like nighttime versus daytime, it'd be cool. When you play like Terraria and stuff, the music changes at night and makes it
Yeah.
more kind of creepy. I mean, music, it's like lighting. It has a huge impact on the environment. People don't even realize.
Yeah. So, if anything, I would at least hope that caves and music associated with it will be coming. Um, oh, one other thing I should mention with caves. They're saying up to, what, maximum of 35, maybe as many as 28 claims will be affected by the cave entrances going in per island. Like, that's a high estimate. I think that's if we're talking about islands that have a lot of claims on them. Ones
Right.
that are mostly empty, probably very few.
Hmm.
And I'm wondering if being closer to the edges or being closer to the hub will actually have a better chance of not getting popped. I'm wondering if it's going to be more of a kind of a mid-edge discovery sort of thing that they're trying to do with them, or if there really will be procedural and there are islands where there will just be one like straight, go to this place, head south, and good luck.
It's so funny because earlier I was thinking of it's so cool that they're doing it right before E3 because I can't think of another game that had a kind of update like this before E3. Like we're always waiting to see what's going to be shown at E3, and now the Monday before E3, we're all going to be on pins and needles like caves are coming, caves are coming. But then that's most of us just hoping to get a look at caves. I hadn't even thought about those who are going to be like, oh crap, is my claim going to be gone? You get in to have fun, and you're like, ah, foiled again.
Oh, by terraforming. Yeah, that's the terraforming is the ones that are going to hurt the most. If you've just made an awesome build that can be picked up and put down anywhere, that's one thing. But if you've turned a mountain into your home and then it gets uprooted before you can do anything about it and paint everything with stone to at least try to replace it the way it was, that's got to stink. But
Yeah.
it comes with the territory.
No, it's all cool, but I just the tension of Monday night is going to be crazy. I think that could be a lot of fun. I'm just looking forward to the anticipation.
Yeah, what Ryderly's saying, they're not talking about like 28 individual claims. They're talking about if you've got a bunch of clusters of claims, all that happen to be right where the mouth is going to be. Like 35 is the mathematical possible maximum apparently that can get eaten. And that's laboratory conditions. We're not going to be seeing that on pretty much most islands. Some of them, Courage Spring, Courage Kettle, I would be actually placing wagers and bets on those because those are some kind of full islands. Um, you
How
know,
many how many entrances are we expecting?
5.
Right, that's what I thought. So yeah. Still, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna the weight of it is gonna just be exciting. I think, especially if it takes them a while, which I expect it to take them a while. I don't expect it to be a 2-hour update. I expect it to be like that night before biomes where it was hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, that's anytime that things where they have to put a big implementation into the world goes in. I always expect there to be issues, and I always expect it to be a be waiting till 3 a.m. sort of thing, or be waiting till 3 a.m. before Steve Klug finally goes home and goes to sleep, and then well, okay, maybe I can take a little nap.
I've been there with Dave before. You don't go home. You nap there.
Yeah, I bet. Here you can use these granola bars as a pillow. This big old box of granola bars. Just pour it out. It's a great pillow. Just
Yeah,
take a nap.
the first game I released with Dave, they were like, Dygz, we'll just go home. We'll get you a masseuse. Like, your back is gonna be thrown out. Go, go. It's okay.
Now I'm making sure it's gonna release tonight. Nothing to do. And then I had a beanbag in my chair after that, so anytime it got too stressful, I just plop down in the beanbag and wait things out. You just end up waiting.
Gotcha. So, one other thing. If there's any part of the development process or any part of the landmark itself that you want to know more about and you think you can get Dexella to trick Andre and crew to make a video about, contact Dexella about it, because she's definitely looking for extra features and such to have on the show. I'd love to see more about the dev process myself. So definitely, everybody, if you've got an idea for one specific thing that you really want to know about, or just kind of a general thing that you kind of like to see an overview of, or just learn a little bit about, contact Dexella on the forums. I think you can send her a direct message, or otherwise you can post it, or a combination of the two, and they might be looking to do that in one of the future episodes. So that should be pretty fun.
Do you think we'll get that Ethereum axe with caves? Like, we've seen it a long time ago.
Caves 2.
I wonder. Huh? Okay. Yeah.
Second
okay,
version,
I
right?
Yeah,
I
we're
see
not
what you're
going to
saying,
get elemental
okay.
Ethereum still.
Yeah.
Elemental Ethereum is the thing. We can get Moonstone, we can get regular Ethereum, but the elemental, that's the thing I was saying about, you can buy all the voxels you want on the market, but it's the elementals that keep you from crafting.
Exactly. I loved the way that Ethereum looked when Dave showed that sphere he made. That was
that'd be
awesome.
nice.
I was just thinking of all these like domed like observatory sort of ceilings I wanted.
Or like a that's what I don't know, like a dwarf bedroom or something. It's like, hey, it's stars. I don't know. I don't know, actually. I don't think dwarves really care about stars except in that one little bit of lore. We really don't know, though, because we don't know much about dwarves except that they're kind of clumsy sometimes and get their heads blown off by fireballs from traps or lose their fingers or stuff like that. They weren't the best of dwarves. They definitely weren't the ones from the Lord of the Rings and all of that stuff.
Yeah, none of them survived.
No, no. To be fair, I can't really think of any notable dwarves other than those two. Um, I can hardly think of any mention of dwarves at all, except for that one scene where Corlin goes in the council room and there's just a bunch of schlubs hanging around.
Hmm.
Um, Even then, I don't remember very specific mention of them. So, yeah, dwarves. We will learn more about probably in the next round of races once the dark elves are as finished as they're going to be.
I thought it was interesting that they're making them recompete every time. Because initially, when I thought it was, dark elves, dwarves, I thought, oh, whichever one doesn't win will go next. But sounds like they gotta fight their way every time.
Well, I mean, unless the next one's Karen, they've probably got a pretty good shot as dwarf. I don't know. It's usually the fans love dwarves or love elves rather. So I can see the elf contingent has gotten theirs out. The
Yeah.
next elf vote probably won't come around for a while. So the elf people are like, "What what do I want to vote on between now and then?" I'm pretty sure also there was a pretty big push towards dwarves. So chances are next time it's gonna be dwarves. Ratonga versus dwarf. Yeah, I don't think Ratonga's gonna win that one.
What's the one Omid wanted? The Ixar?
Ixar, yeah. Ixar will probably get votes just because of Omid.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how they're almost trolling us again. You can build it, but you can't be it. You can build it, but you can't be the race. You can't play the race. You can just build for them. You'll want to play them, but you can't play them in Landmark.
Well, I mean, you'd be building and not even playing as them if Landmark was just a builder tool game. Like, I know they don't want to remove the character from the equation while you're building, but if there was that ability, like I said, to be able to turn your character into a one pixel little wisp that can float around and do whatever and get in tight spaces, that would be great. That would make things a lot easier for the building process. And then, the representation of your character in game while you're building wouldn't really be an issue because you're just this little thing floating around trying to, as you're doing all of your building stuff. There wouldn't be the silly hand going around looking, moving around as you're trying to do stuff. Though I like the hand actually. The hand is a really nice feature, and you can take a lot of good screenshots of like the character standing there really sternly with their hand on some item of some sort, or making it look like they're pushing a vase off of a table or whatever.
I have not heard anybody complain about that before. Why do I have to have my stupid hand in the way? Just let me build.
It's actually, I have no complaints about it. It's actually a really nice feature. Sometimes it's just slightly distracting when I'm trying to look at one very specific thing where my camera is, exactly in the place that I need it to. And it's like, wait, no, get your hand out of the way. I need to see those voxels.
That's funny.
Yeah, force powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a little bit more on the Dark Elves, though. Like you were saying, they were hanging out in the Umbra for a while because they kind of got teleported there, whether they were tricked into going there, however, and they were chased there by was that Iclithid, the black dragon? No, excuse me, not Iclithid. Iclithid's in chat. What's his name?
I'm trying to remember his name. It does start with an I.
Ithiosar.
Yeah.
Iclithid. Hey, Iclithid, you've been upgraded to a dragon. Yeah. No, Ithiosar chased him through, and then I think like part of his tail and one of his legs got left behind in the process, but he took off. So they're out there. It's a rough territory. They're trying to do what they can to survive out there. So they've shown how the how the buildings and stuff are actually being made is that they're just being summoned from the stone as raw magic, and that almost sounds to me like that's like the last vestiges of high magic that might still exist in the world is the ability to control that much stone, and that, be able to control the material of the world to that degree. We don't really see anything like that anywhere else in the storybooks to this point. So if they're the only ones who have this, it might be kind of a lost art that only the Teardal have access to, or perhaps that they actually discover somewhere in there and that they're able to start utilizing. So that's going to be really interesting how that comes together. And then, obviously very militaristic. It's not a happy place over there. I don't know what other races naturally exist there, but they become the Dark Elves after living there for long enough and being, I guess, affected by the area itself. It changes their features a little bit, and apparently when they get back out, when they get back to where the normal elves are at, they're seen as being different for you know having been changed by the magic and by those forces. So there's kind of this beef between the different types of elves going on from that, and from it the dark elves themselves really don't want to be subservient. They want to be top elf. They want to really establish we're the lineage of the Teardal. We're the most badass of the badasses. You respect us, you bow down to us, or at least understand that among elves we're the best. And that's definitely what drives their desire to make such grand architecture. There's things they could make probably just as functional without being as aesthetic, but instead things look awesome and they look dangerous and really, really intimidating. Ramen magic.
Yeah, I love the idea of them breaking stuff off from the furniture and so they can stab other people. I'd love to read stories of them doing that.
Yeah, well, that actually seems like something that will be part of a scripted encounter, that you're fighting some boss and either you have to knock them off some platform onto a spike or something, but something gruesome like that, and it being totally awesome and being the closest thing to representations of gore that they'll have in the game. What the heck is that? I was hearing some high pitched sound. Oh well.
I was wondering that as far as gore goes, like in combat, do you think you'll see blood and stuff in Landmark or not?
There's probably not going to be as much of it because the game, and Dygz obviously all about this, so it's localization in Germany, in Australia, in China, and many other parts of the world. There's different regulations on how much you can depict gore and mutilation and decapitation and skeletons and stuff like that.
And it's so detailed. So we used to have a document that would have all of the different restrictions from each country, and some would be like, you cannot throw a person out of a window, shove them in so that they bounce off the ground, then you shove them in an oven so that they burn, then you take them out and chop them into pieces, and you're like, who does all of that? And
that sounds like they're just going through what's it called, like Tom and Jerry cartoons or something.
Yeah.
It's like citing every specific episode, every specific, you cannot do this.
never seen that in a game. I kind of want to see that game just so I can do that. But what game did I miss? Because
I don't know. The one thing I'd love to see is the very cartoony, like severing but having the ham bone look, like like you would see in those kinds of cartoons when something gets cut off, instead of it being this bloody thing, it just kind of looks like you cut a piece of ham in place and or in half, and you stuck the image on for where the wound is. So I could see them maybe doing that on a very limited level, or maybe even players actually creating characters that they've designed on their claims using, the player studio or whatever, that actually have those breakpoints that actually, break apart in that kind of weird, funny way. It'd be really interesting. One last thing I want to mention before we wrap up, because we're getting close to the 2 hour mark here. Uh, Serenity Point, there's a Dark Elf swap meet. I think they said just south of the hub. If you're
Oh, that's
interested
my server.
in, yeah,
Or my island.
cool. So yeah, if you're interested in getting in some of the Dark Elf stuff that other people have already made and contributing to it, they have something open. You can go do the thing and be a part of the workshop process, because it's totally cool. And on that, we're going to be wrapping up here. So thank you very much, everybody in chat, for coming here. And I will be doing a giveaway after the show. But that'll be
We have too much to talk about still. When's the next time you're streaming?
next time I'm streaming.
Yeah, the next time that you're Wednesday, because you're not going to have a live feature rant next week, right?
I'm not going to have live feature rant, but I'm definitely willing to talk over and through Castles and Crap Shacks, which is probably going to be an interesting one, because this is going to be the last one before caves, and caves are definitely caves and swimming, because I'm hoping in 2 weeks Castles and Crap Shacks is going to be oceans and what people have built underwater, and the submarines with screen doors selection. 'Cause that's pretty much what it's gonna be. It's gonna be really funny though. It's gonna be really a lot of fun.
Castles and Crap Shacks Special Edition.
Yeah, scuba edition.
Fluid edition.
Yes. Now with drinks. Actually, I already poured the drinks for when it crashes, or when I have to shut it down because of going places and things. But anyway, yes, like I said, be doing a giveaway after the show here. But first, gonna wrap up. I am your host, Legendary Neurotoxin. To my screen left is Tobes, who is an awesome streamer who you should also follow. And to my screen right is Dygz, who is you're not streaming, are you, Dygz? No, he's just awesome. He isn't an awesome streamer. He's just awesome.
You'll see me around everywhere, but
Yeah.
I'm not streaming yet. Not streaming.
Not yet. Cool. Alright, and yes, this has been Live Feature Rant. Next week I will be at E3, so Live Feature Rant will not be going, but the week after I'm hoping to have some more features and some more awesome stuff going on. So, till then, I will see you folks later, and thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao, guys.